Stop. Beloved starseed of Gaia, the people in your life have not been leaving you. They have been leaving the version of your path that no longer has room for them. This transmission comes directly from the Arcturian High Council, and we are delivering it now because the separation process active in your life has already been mapped, recognized, and understood at a level your current awareness has not yet reached. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly why people keep drifting away from you, what is being removed from your path and why, and what the Arcturian High Council already knows about this precise phase of your route. But here is the first revelation: the evaporation of closeness you have experienced, the slow drift, the relationships that simply cooled without explanation, the people who were present and then were not. That is not evidence of defect. It is the visible signature of a pruning process. A line in active separation from an environment it has already outgrown. You have been carrying a private verdict about yourself. That something in you drives people away. That you are somehow unlovable at a frequency others can sense even when you cannot name it. The Arcturian High Council is interrupting that verdict now because it is built on a fundamental misreading of the mechanism. What you interpreted as rejection has a different name inside the field we observe. It is called selection. Your path is narrowing. The old circle did not weaken because you failed. It weakened because your route could no longer carry it forward. This is not just information. It is a live transmission for those whose lives have already started narrowing. The algorithm only delivered this message. It did not create the timing. Your path brought you here because the separation has already begun, and the Arcturian High Council does not transmit to fields that are not already in motion the drift you have lived through. The fading friendships, the relationships that left no clear wound and yet left a mark. The growing sense that your circle is becoming smaller without your choosing it. This is the pruning phase preceding an opening. The narrowing always comes first. What falls away is not what you lost. It is what could not cross with you into what is already forming ahead. Comment 777 if you feel the old line is already falling away. Like this transmission if you know your life has been narrowing for a reason. Subscribe to Arcturian Chosen Path if we're ready to understand the separation instead of blaming yourself. And share this with someone who feels alone, cut off, or misunderstood and cannot explain why. The loss you're living through has already been recognized. The mechanism is not defect, it is selection. And the narrowing you are inside right now is not the end of connection. It is the structured removal of everything that cannot accompany your selected line into what comes next. You were guided here because the separation is already active. What you are feeling right now is not simply loneliness. It is the pressure of a path that has already moved past the environment it was once held inside. The ache is real. The silence where conversation used to live is real. The rooms that feel different now, the ones that used to carry warmth and now carry only the memory of it. The friendships that became polite before they became absent. The relationships that required so much management they quietly exhausted themselves out of your life. All of that is real, and none of it happened by accident. There is a mechanism behind every cooling. There is a structural reason behind every silence that replaced what used to be easy. The Arcturian field does not observe coincidence in any of this. It observes sequence. The Arcturian High Council recognizes a specific pattern in selected lines that are entering separation. It is the pattern of increasing relational incompatibility, not dramatic fallout, not betrayal, not the kind of rupture that gives you something clean to point to and say, that is where it ended. The most common signature of active pruning is the quiet kind. The drift, the cooling, the growing distance that no one seems to name because naming it would require explaining it, and neither party has language that fits. You noticed the space forming. You felt the temperature of the connection drop by degrees so gradual they were nearly invisible. The other person may not have noticed anything at all. That asymmetry is itself diagnostic. When only one person in a relationship begins to feel the mismatch. When only one person lies awake wondering what shifted. It usually means only one person is on a path that has started to move. The path moving is not metaphor, it is a functional description of what happens when a selected line begins to refine its route. The energetic demands of the new direction become incompatible with the patterns of the old one. People who were fully sustaining inside the old pattern can no longer meet the frequency of the new direction, not because they are lesser, not because they failed you, and not because you failed them, but because the architecture of what you are becoming no longer shares enough structural language with the architecture of what they are remaining. A road that is widening into new terrain cannot be traveled the same way as the narrow path that preceded it. The people who knew how to walk the old path are not equipped with knowledge of the new one. You are not abandoning them. The path is separating you. These are not the same thing, and the confusion between them is one of the most painful misreadings a selected soul can make during a pruning phase. You have likely tried to hold things together. You have probably managed the distance, over-explained yourself in conversations that should have been easy, worked harder than usual to maintain closeness with people who seemed to be drifting without reason. You have reached out when the reaching felt effortful in a way it never used to. You have said the right things in the hope that the right things would restore what had already quietly left. This is one of the earliest signs that the separation is genuinely structural. When you are the only one maintaining the bridge has already lost its foundation on the other side. You are not holding a relationship together at that point. You are holding the appearance of one, and the exhaustion you feel after those efforts, the specific kind of tired that comes not from doing too much, but from sustaining something that no longer has a reason to exist. That exhaustion is the body registering the separation before the mind accepts it. The body always knows first. The body stops recovering from the effort of maintaining what the path has already released. The first recognition is this. What you interpreted as social failure is more precisely described as relational incompatibility generated by path divergence. The old circle did not weaken because you became less lovable. It weakened because your route is requiring a different architecture than the one you have been standing inside. What looks like rejection from inside the experience looks, from the Arcturian observational field, like a circle losing its ability to contain a line that has already grown past its perimeter. The circle is not broken. The line has simply grown beyond the boundary the circle was built to hold. What has been named here is not the end of the diagnosis. It is the beginning of it. Some of you have been carrying the weight of this separation for months, some for years, calling it your fault, calling it your flaw, interpreting every person who drifted as evidence that something inside you is broken at a level you cannot repair. If this transmission has put language around something you have been holding in silence, Chosen One Manifest, the protocol for selected souls, was created for exactly this threshold. It is not another message telling you that you are exceptional. It is a direct protocol for those whose old line has already started falling away, whose circles are already thinning, and who need to understand the logic of the separation before the mind turns every loss into a personal verdict. It was built for the phase you are in right now. The link is in the first pinned comment below, but it will not remain accessible indefinitely. The second recognition is one that the Arcturian field has observed consistently across selected lines entering advanced pruning phases. The separation does not arrive all at once. It arrives in layers. The first layer is usually the outermost circle. The acquaintances who stop reaching out, the peripheral connections that simply dissolve without ceremony, without conflict, without even a proper ending. One day they were present in some minimal but reliable way, and then they were not, and the space they occupied closed over so quietly you almost did not register the absence until much later. This layer often goes unregistered, because those relationships were never deeply load-bearing. But it matters because it is the first readable signal that the path is beginning to reduce its social surface. When the outermost ring thins, it is not random attrition. It is a preparation for what happens next in the middle ring, and eventually in the innermost circle. The path begins at the edges because the edges are where incompatibility is easiest to release. The middle ring is where the confusion intensifies. These are not acquaintances. These are people you considered real. People who knew your history, your rhythms, your internal world with some degree of accuracy. People who had seen you in your less composed moments and stayed anyway. When this layer begins to thin, when these relationships become strained without clear cause, when conversations that once flowed easily now require a kind of careful navigation you never needed before, when you feel genuinely unknown inside a connection that once felt like the safest kind of familiar, the self-blame machinery accelerates with force. You start searching your behavior for what you did wrong. You examine conversations for the moment you said something that shifted the energy. You replay interactions looking for the fault line. You wonder whether your growth has made you arrogant, whether your increasing need for depth has made you exhausting, whether the version of you that is becoming has frightened away the people who loved the version that was. This search is understandable. It is also frequently misdirected. The mismatch is not behavioral, it is structural. The path is demanding a different environment than the one the middle circle can provide, and that incompatibility surfaces as interpersonal strain that has no clean origin story, because its origin is not in either person's choices. It is in the divergence of two lines that were once parallel and have now begun moving in directions that no longer overlap. The third recognition concerns what happens inside the innermost circle during a pruning phase. This is the recognition that tends to produce the deepest disorientation, the kind that shakes what you believed was settled about yourself, because when the people closest to you begin to feel distant, not through conflict, not through betrayal, but through a slow and quiet drift you cannot fully explain and cannot seem to reverse, the logical conclusion the mind reaches is that the problem is you at your core. If the people who know you most completely are pulling away, or you are pulling away from them without wanting to, then the defect must be fundamental. It must be located at a depth that even love could not reach. This is the conclusion the mind reaches. This is also the conclusion the Arcturian observational field consistently identifies as the most damaging misreading available to a soul in a separation phase. What is happening in the innermost circle is not evidence that you are fundamentally unlovable. It is the most advanced and therefore most disorienting stage of root refinement. The path is not merely thinning the outer edges, it is restructuring the core environment. The selected line requires a different kind of holding than the current innermost circle is built to provide, not because those people are insufficient, but because no circle built around an earlier version of the root can be retrofitted to hold the architecture of the next one. And this is not a judgment on those people. It is a recognition that the architecture of your selected path requires a relational environment that does not yet fully exist in your external world. And the current innermost circle, no matter how much love was once present, no matter how much history it holds, cannot serve as a substitute for that environment without forcing both parties into a sustained mismatch that ultimately exhausts the connection from the inside out. The fourth recognition addresses the specific experience of spiritual loneliness that emerges during advanced pruning phases. This is not the loneliness of someone who has no one. It is a more precise and more disorienting version of that pain. It is the loneliness of someone who is surrounded by people and still feels fundamentally unrecognized at the level that matters most. You can be in a room full of people who care about you, people who would describe you as a close friend without hesitation, people who have known you for years and have genuine warmth toward you, and still feel a quiet and persistent ache that none of them can reach the part of you that most needs recognition. The conversations reach you, but they do not land at depth. The care is present, but it moves around the surface of what you are rather than making contact with the interior of it. This is not ingratitude. It is not superiority. It is not a failure of appreciation. It is the exact sensation produced when a selected line is operating at a frequency its current environment cannot fully receive. The ache of that specific loneliness is one of the most consistent markers the Arcturian field uses to confirm that a separation phase is active and progressing. It does not feel like ordinary social isolation. It feels like you are transmitting something that the people around you are not equipped to receive, not unwilling, but structurally unable, because the frequency you are now operating at requires a different kind of receiver than the current environment contains. And so even in the presence of love, even in the presence of years of shared history and warmth and genuine care, there is a layer of your experience that goes unnamed, unrecognized, and therefore unwitnessed. The path is not doing this to punish you. The path is doing this to make the old environment untenable enough that the selected line stops investing its resources in remaining inside it. The fifth recognition is the one that tends to arrive latest and carry the most structural weight. The relationship between isolation and preparation. Every separation phase the Arcturian field has mapped includes a window of deepened solitude that precedes a restructuring of the relational environment. This window is not a gap in your path. It is the gap between paths, between the old line and the new one, between the circle that could no longer hold you and the architecture that is being prepared at a level you cannot yet observe to receive what you are becoming. The solitude of this window is not emptiness, it is the cleared ground that precedes construction. The mistake most selected souls make inside this window is treating it as evidence that the preparation has failed. The silence feels too long. The solitude begins to feel less like a transit and more like a destination. The distance between where the old life was and where the new environment has not yet formed starts to read like a verdict rather than a threshold, and so the self-blame returns, not as a conclusion this time, but as a kind of protective interpretation. If I am alone because I failed, then at least the aloneness is under my control. It is something I caused and can therefore potentially fix. If I am alone because the path is restructuring itself around me and ahead of me, then I am inside a process I cannot manage or accelerate, and that is more frightening than blame. Blame is at least familiar. The transit window offers no such comfort. This is the point where the Arcturian field observes the highest risk of misreading, not when the pruning begins, not even when the innermost circle thins, but in the solitude of the transit window, when the old line has already let go and the new environment has not yet materialized, and the mind defaults to self-condemnation because self-condemnation at least offers an explanation it can hold without requiring faith in a process it cannot see. The sixth recognition is where the Arcturian field shifts from diagnosis to directional understanding. Everything described to this point, the relational thinning, the middle ring strain, the innermost circle drift, the spiritual loneliness, the transit solitude, all of it has a directionality. It is not random compression. It is not meaningless reduction. Pruning is not merely loss. It is reduction toward a specific form. The branch is not cut to weaken the tree. It is cut so that one line can receive the full resource of the root without dispersing that resource across directions. The tree is no longer meant to sustain. The cut is precise. The Arcturian field does not observe careless pruning in selected lines. It observes cutting that reflects an accurate reading of where the root acquires. What is being removed from your path is being removed because the path has identified what it is meant to sustain and what it cannot carry forward without fracturing under the weight of the mismatch. The relational losses are not random. The people who have drifted, the environments that have become incompatible, the circles that have thinned, they were not cut away arbitrarily. They were released from the path because the architecture of your selected line requires a different load distribution than the current circle was providing, and the grief of losing them is real. That grief does not need to be argued away or spiritually bypassed. It can exist in full alongside the recognition that what left was not simply taken from you. It became incompatible with a direction that has already been determined at a level deeper than your conscious understanding of your own root. Both things are true at the same time. The loss is real and the loss is structural. Grief and direction can occupy the same space. The seventh and final recognition in this phase of the transmission is perhaps the most important one for those who have been in the transit window, the longest. Those who have watched the old circle thin without seeing the new architecture take shape. The path does not remain reduced forever. The narrowing is not the destination. The pruning is not the permanent state of the selected line. A tree is not pruned and then abandoned. The cutting is in service of what comes after the cutting. The preparation for an opening requires the path to be structurally sound, cleared of what could not sustain the load, stabilized at the root before the next relational environment can form around it, what you are being asked to survive, and it is a form of survival. Do not minimize what the transit demands of you, is the phase between the old architecture releasing and the new one becoming readable. That phase has a duration. It is not permanent, even when the solitude makes it feel that way. This is what the Arcturian High Council recognizes in your current position. Not that you are failing, not that the separation proves something terminal about your capacity for connection, but that you are inside the narrowing. You are in the compression before the opening, and the most dangerous move available to you right now is to convert the compression into a final verdict about your worth. You were not rejected. You were separated. These words do not sound different on the surface, but they describe entirely different mechanisms. Rejection implies that something about you was evaluated and found insufficient, weighed by the standards of the current environment, and returned as unfit. Separation implies that a path has been assessed at a structural level and found to require a different relational architecture than the current environment can provide. The difference is not semantic. One places the cause inside you. The other places it inside the incompatibility between a line and an environment it has already outgrown. You were not weighed and found wanting. Your line was recognized as requiring a different container than the one it has been held inside. The people who left were not leaving you. They were separating from a version of the route that could no longer include them. The environments that became unbearable were not becoming unbearable because you failed to adapt. They were becoming unbearable because your selected line was identifying them as incompatible with the direction already mapped for your path. The loneliness is not proof of permanent unlovability. It is the sensation of a soul inside the transit between two versions of its relational world, the one it has already outgrown, and the one it has already outgrown, and the one it has not yet arrived inside. Say this if it is true for you, not as performance, not as self-consolation. Say it because the Arcturian field transmits to active paths, and active paths are confirmed by what the soul is willing to name aloud. I was not discarded. I was separated. What is leaving my life is not leaving because I failed it. It is leaving because my path can no longer carry it forward. And the narrowing I am inside right now is not the end of connection. It is the structured removal of everything that cannot accompany my selected line into what is already forming ahead of me. The pruning has a purpose. The transit has a duration. The solitude has a direction. And the fact that you are here, still present in this transmission, still willing to hear this instead of retreating into self-blame, is it self-confirmation that the separation has not broken you? It is only revealed that the old line can no longer hold what you are becoming. And that revelation, as disorienting as it is the first readable sign that the selected path is not closing. It is narrowing before it rises. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that this separation has already touched your life. It could be people falling away, the feeling of not belonging, repeated distance, unexplained isolation, or the sense that your old path no longer fits. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognizes something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who feels alone, cut off, or misunderstood, and cannot explain why. And if you are ready to understand the separation instead of blaming yourself, subscribe to Arcturian Chosen Path. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a path already in motion. And this is only the beginning.